The power of and. That is our topic for today. My name is Tom Wittig, and I would like to talk about how to deal with rejection and resistance in our relationships, in the workplace, in the organization, from also a systemic perspective and with a focus on renewal and innovation. And I would like to share a magic tool with you that I have discovered. It would be great if you could leave a comment and like the episode so that I know what kind of content and which concepts are interesting for you and what your personal insights are. Now, a little recap of what happened so far in this series about the dynamics of innovation and renewal. I talked in the beginning, first of all, about the systemic context, who belongs to a system. So we need to understand that if we want to work in the systemic context. And I shared also 3 essential questions, which I found very useful for working on topics of innovation, renewal, and self-renewal, of course. And also I prepared 3 guided meditations, which are helpful to initiate this movement of renewal and innovation. So you can always revisit these topics through the meditations, for example. So they are very short exercises. Now, the topic for today was motivated by a feedback from a participant in previous seminars. And what I heard was the innovation constellation was great. We had a great fresh start. Now we have a long way to go. Of course, that is always the case. Once the journey starts, then it can unfold, and I wish you good luck. But also what I heard was a question about how should I deal with rejection and resistance in a good way. And this is something that I hear fairly often, is very common, especially when we talk about innovation in an organizational context, for example. But it applies equally also to, let's say, renewal in our private relationships, in family, couple relationships, and ourselves. Sometimes we're grappling with ourselves and debating with ourselves whether we should embark on a new movement, make a change, etc. Now, let's step back for a second, and I would like to introduce some of the other concepts that you might find interesting. So in order to initiate the movement of change, certain things need to happen and certain parameters need to exist in our environment and in the relationship for the movement to unfold, actually. And in a nutshell, the power and the benefits of a new idea, for example, need to outweigh the resistance and the rejection, of course. What I mean by that? So, first of all, it comes down to the quality of the idea and the preparedness. So are we ready? Are you ready for this change and an opportunity, and also the motivation? Now notice that there's these little multiplication dots in between those. So if one of these is 0, then nothing is going to happen. For example, if you have an opportunity but you're not prepared, then nothing is going to happen. If you have a great idea, you're prepared to do it, the opportunity is coming, but there's no motivation from others that you want to enlist in this motion, in this movement, then also equally nothing is going to happen. And all of these, when they play together and multiply together, they still have to be larger than the resistance and the rejection. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen, nothing is going to move forward. And that's the reason why a lot of great ideas and a lot of energy is getting stuck. And actually, earlier in my career, I had the pleasure to work with a large company, and the leader of the large company, that it was very frustrating for him that the great ideas and the great talent that he has in the organization, they could not get the great ideas out of the organization into the marketplace anymore. And he was really struggling. He was a very intelligent, very smart man, a lot of experience, but he said, I'm completely at a loss. So how can I make this organization get going again? So it's a very common topic, and it is also an economic factor, of course. And in some organization, it even contributes to health in the organization, or the lack of health in the organization. So it can be very frustrating. It can lead to sickness in the organization, and on a personal level, if people feel that their ideas are always meeting rejection and resistance, so they're working themselves up in this environment, and oftentimes you see the symptoms in terms of burnout, bore out, or whatever these new words are for the same phenomenon, that people are really struggling and they're losing the energy and the excitement over time. And it can lead to also, of course, medical conditions that are very severe, of course. On the other hand, optimism is a great force multiplier. I really love this quote when I heard this. I'm not exactly sure who said it first, but doesn't really matter. It's still a great quote. Now, and if you really consider yourself and the situations that you have been in recently, in the past year or in the past decade, so think back for a moment about all those situations where you found a great synergy, you found a great flow, the energy is flowing, people adding to each other, and then the next thing that you know is the idea is taking off, the business is going through the roof, the momentum, the project, the campaign, whatever you wanted to do, or your career, for example, is going through the roof, or your love relationship with your partner is taking off like crazy. And so this optimism and this positive attitude is a force multiplier. So it adds to itself, and then it has a compounding impact. It creates a virtuous cycle. Now, at the same time, the same mechanics that we don't explore here in much detail from a systemic or dynamic perspective, but they can also work in the other direction. So if somebody's really grumpy and resisting all the time, then it's very hard to work with each other. And so that can lead to a lot of stress in the organization. And also the movement can go downhill. So it can bring a whole organization down. Now, then I'm not saying that it's somebody's fault, but it's just the nature of the systemic dynamic that is evolving over time. And now if you listen very carefully and you reflect very carefully in most of these situations, and you reflect the conversation that is happening, and put yourself back into this situation, you hear a lot of sentences and words starting with but. And that's actually one of the challenging things, because the word but actually illustrates and signals a distance. So I'm distancing myself from this, and I'm creating a wall, and it's very hard to overcome this wall. So you hear sentences like, for example, but you didn't ask me. Now, what organizational development people would say is, okay, this is the known not invented here syndrome. So it's not invented here, we haven't been part of this, so by default we don't like it. And then, but this is not the way how we do things around here. Again, it starts a but, and it creates a wall, a resistance, and it's protecting. Of course, there might be very good reasons for why people are protecting, but still the word but is initiating this movement of resistance and rejection. But this doesn't work. We've tried it before, doesn't work. Why should it work now? But what about? And then you find yourself dealing with a lot of obstacles. You're in the objection handling business versus making the change happen and creating growth and excitement. And if people are running out of arguments, good arguments, they might say, so the manager might say, but I still don't like it. I really don't know why. I don't have the arguments right now. I still don't like it, but I still don't like it. And that's almost the end of the story in a lot of cases. Now, let me share a little secret with you. Actually, two little secrets that you could use in your daily life. The secret number one is about the magic word. There's a key, a magic word to open this movement again, open the hearts and minds and get going again with this virtuous cycle. And you have guessed it probably what the word is. It's the word and. Now, and basically means that you're adding to each other. And is adding and adding more, so you are in the cycle of a virtual cycle of positive feedback, and that is creating a lot, and it's unleashing a lot of energy. So that is our force multiplier, and then things can evolve from there. The secret number 2 is, you might guess it as well, is it's starting with me. It's starting with myself. It's starting with you. It's not starting with expecting the others. Don't use that word but anymore. Use and instead of. And they say, what? What do you mean? So try it for yourself. Now, what I suggest here is make it a habit. Start with yourself. Make it a habit for the next days, the next weeks, and see and experience the difference in your own personal life, in your own communication, in your own engagement, your own relationships. So try it now and replace the word but with the word and. Start your sentences with it. So what I'm suggesting here is a short assignment. And from today on, consciously do the following. So I give you some do's and don'ts where you can get started. One is, when you want to respond to somebody, don't say and don't start with the word right away. Pause for a moment and reflect for a moment, and then start your sentence and your response with the word and, even if you're not convinced, because people don't want to be persuaded, they want to be convinced. They want to be in it with their whole heart and mind. And you can only do that when people are part of the change, of course. So from today on, start your sentences with the word and. Even if you're very skeptical, and even if you have a question, you could say, and what do you think about this? And what about that? And what have you thought about this? And that creates a lot more engagement, and it opens doors, and people can add to each other. That's how you can get back into the cycle, how you can get unstuck with a given situation, in a project, a campaign, in your personal life. And what I would suggest is first to observe the difference inside yourself, and with others. And on the don't side, don't tell anybody about your little experiment, your change for a while. For days, weeks, or maybe even months. Just see what is happening. And sometimes it takes a long time for things to evolve, but be very conscious about the word and. And you will be a master of this way of communicating and way of interacting and engaging in a short time. And be patient with yourself. Don't be angry with yourself. Where you say, oh, I've used it again. I've started the sentence with but, and I know that it's kind of leading down a different path. Be gentle with yourself, be kind, and try it next time again and see what is happening there. And don't be a master teacher of others yet, but once you see things changing, you might share the secret with others. You're free to share the video with others. And of course, it would be great if you could share your insights, if everybody could share the insights in the section here, or preferably in the Facebook group, or in an upcoming seminar or webinar setting, of course. So that was it for today. And as always, in the live webinar, we have Q&A. You can submit questions live here in the webinar, or also in the announcements. So when you sign up for the webinar, there's a little survey where you can submit question, or in between the webinars, you can use the Facebook groups, the Facebook pages, and there I will pick up the questions. Some questions I'm able to answer right away, and some take a little bit more thought, and I'm picking them up as a topic for the upcoming webinar. So I wish you good luck, and I'm going to be excited to hear from you and how you turn yourself into a person which is using and. So I wish you good luck with the power of and let me know how you're doing. Goodbye.